بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم
Assalamu alaikum everyone, you're tuned into Ramadan Radio Wolverhampton and you're listening to me, Shreen Mahmood. We're here with the Inspire Show today. In actual fact, we're going to be joined very shortly by Freda Shafi, who is amazing, and she's the lady behind the very delicious food blog that is called Spice It Up. So inshallah, we will be joined shortly by the lovely lady herself. We are going to be talking about food tips and how we can involve the kids in the kitchen, or what can we make, how we can make it easy for them to get involved with cooking. The other thing, obviously, we have just entered the last 10 days of Ramadan. We're hoping that everyone's doing very well, and we want to make sure that we are, if I just, pick up this phone call. We want to make sure that, of course, we want to make the most of Ramadan. And when we're talking about food, of course, we're talking about nutrition as well. I think we do have the lovely Freda Shafi joining us online at the moment. Assalamu alaikum.
Salaam.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Shreen? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You are live on air on Ramadan Radio Wolverhampton, so welcome once again.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So, let's get straight into it, if that's okay. First of all, how's it going? How's lockdown going? What's been happening with Ramadan? How are you guys? How's family?
I think lockdown has become the new normal, so we are coping. There is a routine, and it seems to be, like I said, something that isn't unusual to us anymore. We have a little, we obviously have to get through the homework, the schoolwork, and we just know how to cope now. So alhamdulillah, we're all doing well, thank you.
Okay, amazing. So, I'm sure everyone's tuned in and they want to hear from you. How else can they, this Ramadan, cut out some cooking time? How can we sort of maximize on, nutrients coming in? Simple, easy tips and tricks from yourself?
Well, that's what I aim to do myself in Ramadan, before Ramadan, post-Ramadan, pre-lockdown, post-lockdown. My life is all about trying to make things as easy as possible in the kitchen without compromising on the flavours and the tastes and the health benefits of food. Mm-hmm. So that's really what I do for a living, and this is what I try to disseminate daily in my various platforms, whether it's social media, well, it is social media platform, whether it's Instagram or my blog. I try and engage people in how they can make the most of their time and produce. And particularly now, Shreen, with what's going on with the economy, and focusing a lot on how to make produce go that little bit further, making things economical. And sadly, there are still lots of children out there who are very hungry, and it makes me really sad to hear about that. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, our local authorities are doing as much as they can. But in between then, I'm trying to tell people how to cook economically and buy really good produce and make sure food is nutritious, but at the same time, it does not have to cost the earth.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. And I'm glad you sort of touched upon that, because, we do need to remember that, alhamdulillah, we may be very, very lucky, very, very blessed. But there are very many families who are struggling. I saw an article just this morning. It wasn't even an article. My friend put up a post on Facebook and said, I have a lot of friends who work within the charity sector, and they were running a local food bank in Birmingham. And the lady, the Syrian refugee, she came very, very upset, and she said that, I get a lot of judgment for coming to the food bank, that, how can you in this country not be okay to be, providing food for your family. So it's a lot of judgment that perhaps we need to let go, because actually in this sort of economic time that we're going through, this coronavirus pandemic, it's affected a lot of families, it's affected a lot of jobs. So, it'd be great to hear from you about how we can save and still cook food.
Just as much as the virus itself doesn't discriminate from one person to another, neither do our circumstances. Mm-hmm. So there are people who have been doing very, very well, and sadly their business has folded. The economy has shrunk by 6%. We're heading into a recession. Nobody has that same level of luxury or things at their disposal that we used to. And even if we did, I think we're so much more mindful about resources and being resourceful and mindful of what other people are going through as well. I certainly live very frugally as much as I can, not just because I'm mindful of the fact that the economics of it. It's just making sure that we protect our local farmers as well. So as much as we can, buy local produce.
Support the locals.
As I mentioned before, make it go as far as possible. So if you're making a dish one day, try and batch cook so it can spread over maybe the next day as well, and add another vegetable to it to make it more interesting. Or, for example, I did a roast chicken for the children yesterday, and there was enough left over, thankfully, today for me to make them wraps this afternoon.
Perfect.
Again, it was the cost of one meal, which we spread over 2 days, and just adding an extra element like wraps. Again, they really do not cost the earth, and you get the whole meal ones. They're healthy. Throw some salad in,
and it's easy.
We're looking at making it more interesting. You'd get the children involved.
100%.
My son loves making guacamole,
oh bless,
and he's recently come across a video somewhere where you throw everything into a bag and you just smash it up, and 9-year-old boys and smashing things up is just kind of it's a perfect combination. So anything like that where you can engage children in helping you to make things more interesting, and that went into the wraps today. So not only did we save money, we made it more interesting, we got them involved. It's not rocket science, it really isn't. And as much as we are all struggling right now with so many things, there has to be an element of fun, certainly for the children. They don't really understand what's going on, or maybe they do, and their anxiety levels are up as well. But if we can make food particularly interesting and adventurous, I think it would help their mental health as well as our own, really, just to know that everybody's in the same boat. There
100%.
is no shame. There is no shame in going to food banks. There is no shame in spreading the cost of your food as much as possible. And there is no shame in living frugally. I think we
100%.
are so much more centered because of it. And I think it's a good thing. It's a reset for many of us.
100%. I mean, myself, I think... So yesterday we made spinach and chicken, saag chicken, one of my favourites. And then today, obviously, what we'll be doing is just putting in burrata, which might not be too healthy, but I think we deserve a bit of a treat. So we're going to go...
I think it's quite healthy. It's absolutely fine. It's adding an element of flour, as long as we don't overload on the frying side of it. Absolutely fine. No problem at all. In fact, butter is actually probably as healthy as any other fat out there. I like butter.
It's got to be butter, hasn't it? And I think, again, getting the kids involved in rolling out their own sort of burrata, maybe just sticking in a bit of their own filling and things like that. You're right, and this is what we need to do at home. So 100%. And I think my favorite thing about doing that is it's the time you save. You're almost cooking once every 2 days rather than every day.
Absolutely. And as busy people, whether it's the mother or the father who's in charge of the kitchen, or maybe both, who wants to spend a few hours on their feet cooking every night? Nobody. So making the most of your time, by maybe marinating the night before even. If anybody wants inspiration, just head over to not just myself, but there's so many inspirational food bloggers out there, on Instagram, on various other platforms. Just Google BBC. Even the BBC Good Food Guide has so many amazing hacks where you can make a really beautiful dish so much more less complicated by throwing in things that you would never have thought about. I do it daily, and like I said, if people don't already know where I am, you can find me on Instagram, where I post my recipes and my demos daily, and they're all saved as well. So it's kind of giving you the tools to do it yourself. I don't profess to be the most amazing cook in the world. I'm certainly not. But what I do understand is techniques and flavors, and working on limited resources as well, which right now is just the ticket, I think.
100%. Look, I've had a look at your Instagram just now, and it's guys, if you want to go follow, it's Freda Shafi, FREDA_SHAFI_ spice it up, because that's the name of your blog, right? Spice
That's
it up.
correct, yeah.
So I want to know about this particular dish. Dal is one of my favorite dishes, right? Especially yellow dal. And this is what we call it at home. And it's very quick and easy to make. And then you've added falafel to the mix. Now, I love falafels because, I do travel a lot around to the Arab countries. And now falafel's a big part of Palestinian cuisine as well. So tell me, how did this come about? Is this something you've created yourself?
I think it was born from basically finding, I'm a recipe developer as well, so I'm always interested in what food and elements work together. And pulses, dal I could eat daily.
Yeah,
on
very
the
healthy.
Side, as the main, as the
it's a nice healthy soup.
Breakfast, any meal, because it is a healthy pulse. So you've got protein in there, and I think it was one of those accidental discoveries. I love crunch and I love texture. So when I have food, I like to introduce lots of different textures. So I was looking at something a bit crunchy to go with my dal one day, and I happened to stumble on some falafel. Now, the original ones, I remember they were shop bought, and I tried it, and I thought, this works really well. So the ones that I posted recently, I actually made. It's so easy to make, as long as you've got a cheap and cheerful gadget that mashes things up, like a small food processor. Throw in a tin of chickpeas and other elements. The recipe's on there somewhere for the falafel. And basically, once it's fried up, it's got that nice crunchy texture. It is also a pulse as well, so it's full of protein, just as much as the dal is. Really nutritious, but at the same time, the marriage of those flavors is just phenomenal. For whatever reason, it just works. Sometimes you can't explain it; it's just intuitive.
And do you know what? I can imagine.
They're going to work, it really does.
I can imagine it does, and I love what you say here. When dal met falafel, it was love at first bite. I can just about imagine that, because I think I agree with you. It's almost like an alternative to, say, pakore, which give you a bit of a crunch.
I do that as well.
So it is, and a dal, I have to admit, is one of my favourite. The yellow dal is definitely one of my favourite ones to make. So I'm going to go and definitely try this at some point. And I'll
try,
probably
Shreen. And if
tag
you don't
in
have
it.
time to make the falafel, feel free to buy a really good, when I say really good quality falafel, most supermarkets have them ready-made, but crisp them up, make sure they're oven crisped. And just dunk them. They're like dumplings, so dunk them in your dal.
Oh,
and
bless.
let them absorb that flavour
That's brilliant, that is.
and just taste it. It really is beautiful. But at the same time, it's so healthy. It's packed with nutrition, loads of protein, legumes, pulses, anything like that. That's the kind of food that you definitely need to be looking at eating during Ramadan and beyond.
100%, I agree, because like you said, and it's because it's protein, it's slow release energy, so it's keeping you going for a good part of your day whilst you're fasting, so it is a really good one. So I was going to ask you actually, what kind of things should we be looking at, in the last 10 days? We are still looking for those treats, because we're fasting, we're still getting sort of family requests about certain dishes. What are the most important nutrients that perhaps we should be looking at taking in?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that last part. What are the most important
Nutrients, or what kind of, things should we be focusing on getting into our bodies in the last 10 days whilst we're fasting?
These are the days that we're probably feeling a little bit run down, maybe slightly depleted in terms of our nutrition. I know as soon as iftar comes, your stomach does shrink, so you're probably not taking in as much as you would ordinarily. So we've probably, lost a little bit of weight. But making sure, like I said, these last 10 days are the ones that you need to be consistent, making sure you stay hydrated, however that is, whether it's fluids, fruit, vegetables, contain a lot of water, making sure that you are eating the right foods at Sahri, whether it is grains, whether it is cereals. Usually the best choices for Sahri are oats and fuels that are going to keep you going through the day, making sure that you fully hydrate at Sahri. And once you open and break your fast, obviously you want something that's beautiful and tasty. And I would never say deny yourself. Don't deny yourself what you want to eat, but just be very, very mindful of quantities. Be mindful of balance. If there is an alternative to sugar, because many of us want a beautiful, indulgent dessert afterwards. There are so many different alternatives to sugar that you can be thinking of. Dates provide a lot of the sweetness, and I use them instead of sugar a lot of the time to sweeten a lot of my dishes. Honey, and there are certain types of honey that you can get hold of which are actually healthy for you. But just keep an eye really on making sure you are consistent with your intake of fluid, probably most of all keeping hydrated, and keeping an eye on all of the different elements that you need, that your body needs, good carbohydrates, good proteins. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, you probably will be very adept at making sure you're getting the right proteins. But I also try and encourage people, if they need the supplements for health, from the health food shop, we all lack vitamin D. So whether it's from food, being more aware of what foods contain vitamin D. There are so many foods out there that have it in there, but sometimes you don't get enough from food, so making sure you top it up with supplements wherever possible, and that is something that has been advised by health practitioners. So just like I said, making sure you stay as healthy, as hydrated, and as energetic as you possibly can in this final stretch. We're on the home stretch now.
100%, you're right. There's a lot, in the last 10 days that we can do. And one of the things, again, is this is why it's so important to have you with your tips and tricks and, shortcuts in the kitchen, because I really, myself personally want to be spending as least time as I have to in the kitchen. What have you pre-planned the next sort of 10 days? How in advance do you plan your sort of menu?
I have two relatively young children, so pre-planning is quite important. And when I say pre-prep, I'm talking about things that make preparation easy. So I always make sure I have a whole stack of ginger, garlic, turmeric, things that are our food. So, for example, if you do have a predominantly Pakistani diet, Asian diet, these are the elements that we use a lot of in our sauces and our dishes. So I make sure I always have a really good stack of ginger, garlic, turmeric, onions pre-prepped, freeze them. So when it comes to making food, it's there. You don't have to stand there peeling it. You don't have to stand there grating it or processing it. You literally freeze it in ice cube trays, or you can have it in a jar in the fridge with olive oil. Anything like that that's going to make your life easy, that's where pre-prep is really, really handy. I don't necessarily pre-cook food and freeze it. I think I like to have fresh food, but when most of the work is already done for me, like the base and the sauce and the masala is already there, that things that could take 15 minutes of your time. Those kind of things are definitely ones to exercise. Also, roasting. My children love roast meat. So if you can, if you're sick of certain foods all the time, why not try and roast your meat? So marinate it puree in maybe some sauce, Cajun spice, piri-piri, tandoori, whatever takes your fancy, and put it in the fridge and forget about it. And maybe an hour or two before mealtime, put it in the oven, roast it. A really nice side dish. It could be anything. It could be vegetables. It could be a beautiful hearty salad with couscous or rice, multigrain rice, brown rice on the side. It's perfect. It doesn't have to be a lavish curry every night. That certainly doesn't go down in my house in any case. I like to mix it up. So pre-prep is always really important, I find. But even if there isn't anything pre-prepped, just looking at what you've got in your fridge and making the most of it. My kids are like any other children out there. They love a breadcrumb. They love anything that's crunchy.
Oh,
if you don't have any breadcrumbs, if you've got cornflakes, you smash them up, and they are the crispiest, tastiest breadcrumbs you'll ever find.
Oh, brilliant.
And again, there's a full recipe in my Instagram and on my blog on how to make things crunchy and crispy. And I'm partial to crunch as well, but it's just another healthy way of introducing texture, flavor, on a limited budget as well. So all of these things are brilliant hacks, but they also don't eat into your pocket.
Brilliant. We have had a message in. The lovely Alvina is asking, what diet would you recommend for Ramadan? And the second part of that question is, for a diabetic diet, is there anything specific you could recommend?
One thing I will make clear is I'm not a nutritionist. Okay. I am a passionate food blogger and a cook and a home cook. So when it comes to anything like a health condition, I would be very mindful of, trying to say what would be good for you. But obviously, with diabetes, we need to stay away from. I have relatives
high
who
sugar
are
content,
diabetic, so stay away from processed sugars as much as possible, refined sugars. And if you do have a sweet tooth, which many diabetics do, try and replace it. Some really good alternatives out there. There is coconut sugar. But again, whilst I'm not a nutritionist, I wouldn't say eat that instead of, sugar. That's not really my area. But making sure that you eat a balanced diet, making sure you get enough of every food element, protein, carbohydrate, staying hydrated as much as possible. The hardest thing is to deny yourself of anything. So certainly there's so much information out there. So many amazing food bloggers. Go online, Google healthy diabetic food. Like I said, it's not my arena, so I can't talk too much about it.
Sure.
But just making sure, you kind of exercise. You just know instinctively what's right for you, what's right for your body. If you do have an underlying health condition like diabetes, and like I said, there are so many alternatives to sugar out there right now that you can use instead of sugar, which are just as good. And just keeping your eye on the carbs, because things like chapati, roti, refined carbohydrates, flour, full of sugar, processed in the body, and it becomes sugar. And I have to keep it to a minimum, and I know that because, like I said, I have members of my family who are diabetic.
Oh, bless.
As an overall diet, I would just say everything that I've just been talking about. Balance is the key. Whether
100%.
you are a meat eater, whether you are a vegan or a vegetarian, a few days a week, we probably more than a few days right now, we are trying to stay away from meat, but substituting meats with a lot of protein, things that I've talked about already.
Of course.
Falafel, full
Frida,
of protein.
I am just going to... Sorry, Frida, I am just going to pause you there because we're going to have to go to a break. Guys, stay tuned in for all the... Assalamu alaikum, guys. I am back after that short break, and hopefully, inshallah, Frida Shafi is going to join us back as well. We've been speaking about food tips and how we can make the shortest cuts in the kitchen, so we can focus on doing as much zikr and ibadat and, you know, family time and all of that stuff. So alhamdulillah, we are in the last 10 days of Ramadan, and we're looking to really go for home run right now. So, you know, it is important to keep healthy during Ramadan. We are in this sort of spiritual month where we are fasting, and I think I always find fasting really gives you the ability to sort of retrain what your food habits are, for example. So, you know, all those trigger foods and those addictive sort of little snacks, unhealthy snacks that we go for out of Ramadan, these are things that we can cut out very easily because we're fasting during the day. So I mean, yes, I'm not one to say no treats. It's definitely something that I personally always have a small treat towards the towards the end of the day after iftar, obviously. These days I'm craving pomegranates, for example. I love having pomegranates. So that's a healthy fruit snack, so that's okay. The other snacks that I have previously been obsessed with, let's say, is like, you know, crisps and chocolate. Those aren't always the best ones to be, you know, stocking up on. And I think we, as primary sort of grocery shopping, you know, responsible for that, we can ourselves, you know, make sure we're not buying in you know, these unhealthy snacks, and making sure we've got plenty of fruit. There's always some healthy stuff we can have as well. You know, obviously some of our young children aren't fasting. So what I like to do is make sure I've got carrots, because carrots is something you can just, you know, peel, chop up in those sticks. And this is something that the kids can, you know, have during the day if they're peckish. Grapes are a good snack as well. I think, you know, you can sort of prep these sort of snack pots, and it's an easy way of you know, keeping the snacks going for the kids. But alhamdulillah, we are here. Hopefully we will have Frida Shafi join us shortly. I'm going to play you a nasheed. If you guys are tuned in and you want to drop me a message, you can do 07440 420 432. You can call me 01902 972 150. We tend to have a lot more text messages, WhatsApp messages even. So 07440 420 432. I think I'm going to play for you. I wonder whether you've heard this one. This one is by Muad, and it's a very sort of positive one, and it's called Salaam. So I hope you enjoy.
نعطي السلام في كل كلامي ما كاش مكان ما زرته بضحكتي خلي الزمان وراك وامشي معك لمان وكن متهني كن كيما النسمة اللي تمشي بلا وقفة لا خليك معاها وسلم من جاها يا سلام عليكم يا
Hello.
Hi, Salaam alaikum. That's Freda on the line with us. How are you doing? You're back?
Good, thank you. Yeah, I'm back. I've just literally popped something up on my social media.
Oh, bless you. While we were waiting...
Just to give you an example of how easy it is to keep, if you have young children or older children, to keep them snacked up during the day.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I was look how in sync we are. That's what I've just mentioned myself, trying to avoid all the unhealthy snacks. Obviously primarily it's with us, the people that do the shopping. But in Ramadan, obviously we've not stocked up on our own snacks. It's just we've tried to, keep the carrot sticks coming and the grapes and the stuff like that for the kids
Good.
to have. So tell us a little bit more about what you've just put up.
Just to pick up on something you said there, Shreen, unhealthy snacks. I mean, sometimes the decisions that, you can make can end up being really costly for so many reasons, not just on your health, but also on your pocket. I mean, why would you buy an unhealthy snack that is probably so much more expensive than making 10 times of it at home?
You're right.
A small tub, for example. Sometimes how much a tiny tub of guacamole or hummus can cost when all you need to create a really big batch of hummus, for example, is a chickpeas, which is pennies, you're looking at nothing. And when you tot up the cost of making something at home versus buying it from a shop or a supermarket that's already being processed, why would you do it? Anyhow, literally just showed you a post on my Instagram. It's something I was for kids earlier, and it was their own choice. They wanted something crunchy as usual. So tortilla wraps, you can buy them in bulk.
Yep.
And again, does not cost the earth. You can get the whole meal version variety, or you can get the white ones, whatever. Bake them in the oven, become crispy. They become as good as the chips that you can buy. Okay, a small pack costs you quite a lot, whereas you make it at home and you can make 5 times as much. Doesn't cost, and it's healthier for you. Put them in the oven with a little bit of oil, and that's how they come out nice and crispy. If you are looking at social media, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. And as I mentioned earlier, my son is a huge fan of avocados, and he loves to smash them up in bags.
Oh, bless.
Now,
look,
other ingredients.
Avocados are definitely...
It's all smoked. Exactly. All kind of into the minimal. It kept going for a while. Avocado chips, delicious. It's really happy during Ramadan. It's a really good staple thing to be eating.
100%. I mean, avocados are definitely a superfood. And you know what? I made the mistake of going back on your Instagram and having a look, and it looks absolutely delicious. Now, the red stuff in there, is that fresh tomatoes?
That's fresh tomatoes.
Okay, brilliant. And then again, I'm going to say the mistake. I scrolled down your Instagram feed and I spotted the French toast. Now, that looks absolutely delicious. When you're making your French toast, could you just talk to us a little bit? How do you go about doing it? Because everyone does it a little bit different.
Well, up, my mum used to call it mitti bread, which is
Same.
the Pakistani version of French toast is mitti bread.
100% same.
Going back in time, Mum used to make it just using bog standard white loaf, sun-blessed, whatever the brand was in those days, and she would mix together some eggs and milk and sugar in a bowl, and I remember it so vividly. It was our Sunday morning treat. So I just used to remember her whisking the eggs and the sugar and the milk and thinking, oh my God, I can't wait for this. Then she'd dunk the bread in and then fry it in a little bit of butter, both sides, until it was golden brown and the edges were amazing. I've always been huge into, like you eat with your eyes. So the look of it to start with will just draw in. The way I make it, however, is I like a little extra fruit in mine over the top, but also in the body of the bread. So instead of using basic bread, why not use a fruit loaf, which is exactly what I did there.
Now
So
that's interesting.
you've already got some sweetness in there so that you don't have to add any extra refined sugar in the mix that way. So you've got sugar from the sweetness of the fruit already embodied in that bread. And you can pick up fruit toast from anywhere, Warburton's Fruit Loaf or whatever you choose to, whatever brand it is. So there's already that sweetness there. Mix up your eggs and your milk. Dunk that bread in, make sure it soaks up all of that moisture, and then in a pan or it's well oiled or greased, and throw in the French toast until it becomes beautiful and golden and crispy, which is how I like it. I like it kind of extra done, so it's nice and golden and crispy on the edges. Throw on some extra fruit if you have it. I always try and use up fruit from the fridge if it's about to turn or it's on its shelf life. I'll throw it over the top. If you have some whipped cream or cream, if you like a little bit of a creamy element, drizzle some cream over the top. And it's actually a perfect dessert as well. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a breakfast. You can have it as an after dinner treat too, if you like.
I mean, it looks fab, and I'll be honest with you, after iftar, I do tend to look for something sweet. At the moment, I'm being nice and healthy, and I look for, pomegranates or, some sort of healthy sweet treat. But this, I have to admit, now that I've seen it, I can't wait for after Ramadan now, because I'm going to be making all these lovely recipes. If I was to ask you, after Ramadan, during Ramadan, we have this sort of almost detox period where we're trying, where we're not eating during the day. And hopefully we're trying to focus on eating healthy stuff before and after. How can we sort of think about good food habits after Ramadan?
It takes 10 days to form a habit.
Is it really? 10 days.
That's
right, we've got 10 days.
The psychologists will say anything you exercise for a period of time, they've put a framework around it and they've given it 10 days. So anything you do for 10 days, whatever it is, detox, eat rubbish food, eat amazing food, go to a certain place, it becomes a habit. So if you create a healthy habit and you do it over a set period of time, it becomes instilled and almost instinctive. And it sets a bar for you so that it almost becomes part of your routine. It's like when you give up sugar in your tea, and the minute you have sugar in your tea again, it can taste a bit revolting. So I would say kind of exercise some kind of, habit, routine, some things that whilst you don't feel like you're in denial, because that's the worst thing you can do to yourself, put yourself in a position where you're feeling you're missing out because you're only just going to rebel and go nuts if you feel that way. So try and think positive thoughts as you're doing it and not feel that you are missing out, and replacing some of the things that you absolutely love that are not so good for you with things that are good for you but taste just as good.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you start thinking that way, it's not just about what you're putting in your mouth, it's your whole psychology. It's about changing the way you feel about things, the relationships that you have with food. Why is it unhealthy? What is it going to do when it's inside me? Do we need that, that deep fried variety of it, or is it going to taste just as good if it's in the oven? It's learning a new skill as well.
Mm-hmm.
And anywhere where you feel like you're doing something good, again, instinctively, you'll start to feel really positive and good about yourself, and it changes the relationship that you have with food.
Mm-hmm.
So try and keep that just in the back of your mind. Nobody is perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. I like this deep fried stuff as well, but everything has to be balanced.
100%. So, I mean, we've actually had a message here. Hi there. Can I have the full name of the caller, Farida? I want to follow her recipes. So do you want to just quickly share your name, and maybe your blog would be a good idea as well, so they can follow you on that?
So if, I don't know if you're on Facebook or anything, that you can just type it in there, but it is Freda. It's F-R-E-E-A, S for sugar, H-A-F-I. So it's my name, Freda Shafi, and then it's _ spice it up. But if you type in Freda Shafi in Instagram, it usually comes up with the rest of it, finishes it off. And then I also have a blog, which is Spice It Up Blogspot. But if you go to my Instagram page, it will take you to my blog. So it's all interconnected. You'll find my blog and my other social media platforms. And even if you put it in Google, it usually brings up, everything I'm
How
doing
to contact
currently.
you. Brilliant. No, it's great. I mean, okay, so we're talking about food, but do you, around out of Ramadan, do you, again, I mean, your advice is generally, keep it balanced. How do you keep fit? Do you do a little bit of gym going, or how do we incorporate that aspect into it?
Again, having two relatively young children and staying active is a no-brainer, because I'm usually either running after them or, chasing them around a car park while they're in there on some kind of fast thing like a bike or whatever. But again, if you don't want to keep it, I try and exercise between 3 and 4 times a week, at the most 5. But when I say exercise, I'm talking about 15 minutes a day, and having a little bit of a routine of exercises that work for you, depending on what bits of your body you want to work. If it's your legs, if it's your overall fitness, do something like go for a long walk, or if you like jogging, jog. If you like skipping, skip. There's so much, I'll say this again, we have so much information at our fingertips that you can type in to YouTube, 10-minute workout daily for overall fitness, and it will bring up a routine that suits you and suits your body. I tend to do something that's an overall cardio, and then just keeping my joints healthy as we get older. We need to make sure that we're using our joints properly. So keeping your eye on that, as well as eating healthy, you've got to make sure that you're moving around as well. Mm-hmm. Children tend to keep you moving around, but like I said, it does not have to be so overwhelming and frightening that you think, oh my God, I have to work out and it's going to take this. It can be anything. Applying yourself to daily chores, even if you're vacuuming your house, just make 100%. Sure you're mindful of how you're moving your body. Instead of walking up the steps, run up the stairs. Things that you can do within your own space that you feel comfortable. I don't go to a gym. I work out at home. You do not to subscribe to a gym. It doesn't need to cost the earth. Everything that you need to do, you can do within reason, within your own home. If you wanted that extra motivation, then maybe the gym is for you. But home in my own space while the kids are running around. I even get them to join in. Star jumps. Everybody loves a star jump.
100%.
You know, 20 star jumps to get your heart rate going.
I mean, look, I can't believe, number one, we've flown through the show. It's already towards the end of the show. We've only got 7 minutes left. But I've been scrolling down the Instagram and I want to hear a little bit more about this chicken shish kebab curry that you've made. I love shish kebab, and obviously, you know, to turn it into a handi and eat it with, I don't know, maybe roti or chapatis,
Roti, right.
you know. So tell me, how do you go about making that then?
That is a perfect example. I'm so glad you picked that, because that is a perfect example of pre-prep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, pre-Ramadan, how many of us stand there in the kitchen prepping, you know, our samosa and putting them in the freezer, knowing that we're going to have one, maybe at iftar, preferably baked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we all pre-prep things like kebabs and samosas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these kebabs were pre-prepped. So our butchers do, I'd say, 80% of the work with this kebab. You hand them an onion, you hand them a big bunch of coriander and a few chilies, and you say, can you pop these through the grinder with the chicken? So they do most of the work. That's your kebab mix. You add your spices to it. The recipe is there, by the way. I'm just talking you through it. So you throw in the ground spices,
Mm-hmm.
you mix it up, and what I tend to do is I pre-prep them and pop them in the freezer.
Brilliant.
And when
So
it
do
comes
you
to-
cook them, or do you cook them first and then freeze them, or do you leave them
I shape them. So these ones are like kind of long, like the shish kebab shape.
Mm-hmm.
So I've shaped them, I put them on a wide plate, and I put them in the microwave for 3 minutes, and it seals them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the outside does not stay sticky. You basically can pick them up, you can throw them around, and it will not break.
Okay.
Trust me.
Brilliant.
You can play catch with it, and it will not break because the microwave.
Freda, I'm imagining you
microwave.
throwing around kebabs in the kitchen now, honestly.
It's a game I like to play occasionally. Throw the kebab.
Lockdown did
but
it.
You can quarantine games. So you can basically, that kebab is going to stay intact.
Okay.
You can put it in in foil, in a box, in the freezer. And when it comes to taking them out, you literally need to fry them in a frying pan with some oil, golden brown. And once again, that masala you can pre-prep. So if your ginger and your garlic is already minced and in the freezer, you take that out, you throw some tomatoes in, throw in your ground spices, make that beautiful masala, throw in the kebabs, dinner done.
I mean, that's it. You know what? I can't wait for that.
There's a whole demo on the Instagram.
Brilliant.
So rather than listening to me going on and on about throwing kebabs,
Oh no, I'm excited
why
now because
don't
it's
you
so
just
easy.
go and visit my Instagram?
I'm excited. Look, you know what? I think if anyone's throwing any kebabs around in Wolverhampton, that it's a new trend. It's a new trend set by yourself. You know what's funny? I think we have to try our best to keep it a little bit light-hearted sometimes as well. We're all perhaps feeling it, and you know, with husbands and wives at home, I know a lot of my friends are like, "Oh God, when is he going to go back to work?" You know, instead of working from home. So I mean, this is a good you know, easy thing to do. Just play catch with or throw the kebab.
Definitely, it's a brilliant bonding technique.
Bless. But you know what? It's absolutely amazing. You know, to get you on the show, and inshallah, it's been a pleasure to have you. And
Thank you, Shreen. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here,
always.
And I can't believe how quickly that hour goes.
I know, and we were worried we weren't going to be able to fill the hour. But you know, these recipes. I mean, I only have to scroll down. I think, you know, I'm looking forward to doing a lot of these recipes because, you know, sometimes as a not an expert in cooking, you know, it can be daunting, but when it's so easy and, you know, simple, the way you've set it out, and you're sort of, you know, it's nicer to go and try something, I think. Definitely. So, no, I really appreciate having you with me. You're my new best friend, definitely. I'll be messaging you, no doubt.
Please do. It would be nice to stay in touch. And anybody that wants to know more about my recipes, send me a direct message. Don't be afraid. I'm always learning as well. I'm not an expert. I think we're all, we're all learning all the time. So it's just
100%.
about having the confidence. And hopefully, if I can give you that, that's my job done.
That's exactly what I was talking about. It's about having the confidence, isn't it, to try new things. And I love that about you. This dal falafel thing is going to, until I make it, I'm going to be thinking about it. So inshallah, that's definitely one on my list. But again, thank you so much, and we shall keep in touch, no doubt. And if we can, we'll let you know how Ramadan Radio Wolverhampton goes. Perhaps we will try and keep it online, and we'd love to have you do a segment for us, inshallah.
That would be lovely. Thanks, Shreen.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody.
Take
care, and enjoy the rest of Ramadan as well.
All right, take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, walaikum salam.
So that was the lovely Freda Shafi, and we have shared her details with you before. You can easily just Google it. The blog she writes is called Spice It Up. I definitely intend on making the most of the food tips myself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the rest of the nasheed towards the end of the show. From me, God bless and good night, and take care until I'm back on, inshallah, on Friday. Oh, tomorrow morning, I believe. Right, so it's the Nasheeds and Naats program tomorrow. So with that, I am going to play you out to Salaam by Mawad. Take care and Assalamu alaikum.